Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the post-lunch session of AdTech New Delhi. Before we dive into the next 45 minutes in the session, I'd like to say hi to Narasimha from Home Shop 18, Kritika from Facebook, Ramesh from Godrej, and Ishita from 99 Labels. If you look at shopping, it's intrinsically a social. It involves a lot of social interaction, right? So think back at the times that. Think back at the times that we went shopping in the traditional world. Very often we went shopping in pairs. We went shopping with family. We went shopping with our better halves and our friends. And another thing is, what happens when these groups go out together? There's a lot of conversation that happens. Conversation that happens about price, about service levels, about proximity, and this covers everything. This covers everything from shoes to clothing to fashion items to gadgets, etc. So it's intrinsically, a social habit. The other thing that we're seeing today is a massive explosion. Explosive growth, rather, of how social is being digitally morphed in many ways, right? So today you're seeing sites like Facebook and a lot more in the social space, which have grown kind of exponentially. So look at these as two circles. You've got the traditional social interaction, and then you've got the digital social. You've got shopping as yet another circle. And when you put these three of them together, there are a whole range of questions that come up, right? Question like, how will this new behavior digitally exhibited affect commerce today and in the times to come? How open are consumers, right, to sharing shopping details in today's social landscape? Some items, for example, grocery, right? The traditional social didn't really play too much, right? You didn't go and ask where do you get, where do you get the best dal or something from? Will digital social make any kind of difference, or will it influence it in any way? Are people buying big ticket items as well, or is it restricted to smaller, low involvement purchases? And how are companies reacting to this, and what have their experiences been in building engagement and eventually sales? So I'm sure there are many such questions which kind of buzzing in everyone's head right now as we speak. And the next 45 minutes we hope to answer some of these questions and throw light on social commerce. So let me begin with you, Ishita. Could you define for us the social landscape, really, and the 99 Label experience in social commerce?
Before I answer that question, I have 2 points. One, a disclaimer. I don't know what I'm doing on this panel, because we were discussing earlier, especially when it comes to social, we know very, very, very little. We're experimenting. We're learning. So I don't know whether I'll be able to add too much value, but I can share what we're doing at 99. The second point I want to make is, or to explain, is what we do at 99, and I don't know whether the audience knows what we do at 99. So 99 is what is worldwide called a flash sales site. We offer premium brands, aspirational brands, in the fashion lifestyle category at deep discounts in a flash sales concept. So that means the sale event will be for 2 days or 3 days at maximum. Coming to social, when we launched 2 years back. We said, okay, who's our target audience? And target audience for a site like ours is essentially women. Okay, the other sort of aspect about us is that we are not an open site. We are a closed site. So we are a members-only site. Challenge for us was, how do you reach women? Because for us, primarily, we are targeting the women. They are either the buyers or the influencers for pretty much everything that we have on our site. How do you reach this woman? 2 years back, every stat that was available said women are not online. And if they're online, then they are emailing, but they're not really buying anything much. Travel site data showed that there are not too many women out there. The only place where we thought we could even find them was on sites like Facebook. We realized that women are socially, or that they're active socially online, but that's it, then nowhere else. Now that was also a function of the fact that 2 years back, e-commerce for women didn't exist. Women were not buying fashion items, women weren't buying lifestyle items, it didn't exist in India. Home Shop 18, I'm sure he'll disagree with me, but I don't think it existed in India. So one was that we suddenly found that we had to use social to reach our primary target, which was women. And we found her on Facebook. Now, I was earlier talking and I heard that Facebook in India has more men than women. For us, our Facebook page has more women than men. We are finding women on Facebook, okay? And that's true for all the social platforms that we're using, by the way. So we are on fashion blogs, we're using blogging, we're using Facebook, we've just started to use Twitter, we use LinkedIn. We suddenly found that we are starting to reach women online in India. So that was a big one for us. The second thing is that we, as I mentioned earlier, are a closed site. We're a members-only site. Now, what does that mean? We spend a lot of money to acquire you as members. We have an email ID, we feel very excited. We can send you email every day, tell you about our deals every day. What happens if you change your email ID? We've spent a lot of money and we've gotten no value. Our database has become redundant. We realized the other area of social for us is that we have to use social to keep engaging with them, to keep reaching them, and you do not change your social IDs the way you change your email IDs. You can change your job, you can even change your email ID, you don't change your social ID. So for us, those are the two aspects I think that we've used effectively, we've used consciously, and we'll talk more about what we've done with it.
Thank you. Next question is for you, Kritika. So internationally, we've seen brands like ASOS now with Facebook stores and things like that. Mm-hmm. Do you see a similar trend here in India, or what are your views on this, and when do you see this taking off?
Sure thing.
Companies and e-commerce companies.
Yep. And you know what Ishita said is actually like a perfect segue set up for some of the things that I can talk about. One, we talked about more men than women here on Facebook in India, but then when you have over 46 million users on Facebook, even that shift means that there's a lot of women there online, and for Ishita's company to target and get to the right consumers. So I think the answer, as far as our stores like ASOS happening in India, I think you see examples of that right within this panel with 99 labels, with Home Shop 18. And we see just examples all across the board, whether it's Flipkart, Book My Show, Make My Trip, or even like retail stores, traditional retail stores like Shoppers Stop. Shoppers Stop actually celebrated its 2 millionth fan just a few weeks ago. They do all kinds of engaging content, but they also have a store right on their Facebook page where they talk about their most popular items and let users buy right from there. So I think the question actually is not when we will see it. That time is past. We're already seeing it. But really the key question is how well the e-commerce sites are using social and how quickly they're going to adopt it. And that's where we see that e-commerce sites in India are using just a fraction of the power of social. Just if you want to launch just by putting a billboard and say follow us on Facebook, that really is not a social strategy. And what brands really need to do is to rethink, and e-commerce sites need to do, is to rethink the whole experience, right from login. It's one simple example. So let me poll the audience. How many of you really love creating one more login, one more user ID for yet another e-commerce site and having to remember one more password? Show of hands. How many folks love creating more IDs? Yeah. See, no hands going up there. So it's an example of how e-commerce sites need to rethink things from identity. You have your consumers on Facebook. It's like a matter of minutes to be able to use the same Facebook identity that can then follow you on Facebook, as well as if you're off of Facebook on an e-commerce site. And that thinking needs to permeate all through, buying, purchase, customer service. And that's where we see the next wave of innovation, is really rethinking the whole experience, putting people at the center, and rebuilding the whole experience around people.
Thanks. Ramesh, a question for you now. A little while ago, we all saw GoGeo in a very, very big way with a huge launch, etc. Really, so, what was the objective of GoGeo, broadly speaking, and, has it helped move away from, move from brand engagement right down to sales, which is what, the e-commerce bit is about?
Talking about Gojio, I think the intentions and the objective of setting up Gojio was very different from commerce perspective. It was not commerce at all when we started off. For a brand like ours, which is a heritage brand, which has been there for almost 110 years, which we all have grown up with, how do you change the identity and image of a brand over, let's say, when the entire country, if you look at it, the demographic profile is changing, and your TG, if you look at it, your customers, you're looking at it, they are getting much younger. And this is a brand which has been there, which is seen more as a mom and pop brand. How do you start connecting up with this set of consumers? So it's largely to engage them. It's largely to change the imagery of the brand, Godrej mother brand, and start connecting up with the youth. So I won't say when we kicked off this initiative, it was for commerce. It was with the intent of connecting up with the youth. Having done that, I guess, naturally, when you invest in some properties like this, which is a huge investment. In fact, Gojio is one of the biggest investment from our point, strategic investment of ours. It's a huge, if you look at the way Gojio works, it's a huge community which runs Gojio. It's not set of marketeers who sit and run this Gojio website. It's entirely a set of community living in India, living abroad, who are owners of these sites, and they actually run this, they live on it, and they actually keep modifying this site. Yes, we have an intent to start our commerce. We are going to start up our shops. We are going to set up shops in there. We already have a shop called as Eon World, which is there, but it is not for sale. It is just more for information at this point of time. So from that perspective, you see, Gojio is not for, at this point of time, we are not looking at from the commerce perspective. Yet we have, from our point of view, if you see Godrej, you are into many products. Like they say, we make from lock to launchers. So you can't sell all product launchers, you can't actually rocket launchers, you can't sell online, unfortunately now. But having said this, we address the needs of different set of customers, and we believe that we need to also engage them differently. So we have our own sites like Godrej Appliance. I was just talking to Kartika and others that we have almost 2 lakh fans, which was built over last 7 to 8 months. And I think commerce comes there. So once we get into the set of people who are like-minded, they have joined your social site for, for certain reasons which have, and they have some commonality, then you can explore and exploit. I don't know whether that's the right term to use in terms of exploit is not a, it's not seen politically right word, but then, of course, when you invest in something, any businessman will ask you, when are you going to get money out of it? So we will start doing that shortly. We're working on certain strategies. Those will be the sites for commerce. Gojio primarily will not be the site for commerce at this point of time. Maybe later, as the industry evolves, we may look at it and take it there.
So Narasimha, unlike 99 Labels, which is a pure online experience, or Godrej, which is kind of a mix of online as well as offline, Home Shop 18 really was a television shopping network. So where does e-commerce and more importantly social fit into the scheme of things for a Home Shop 18?
Ours is a unique business. We have 2 businesses actually. One is a TV shopping business that touches about 150 million Indians. It's mass. And then we have an e-commerce business, which is internet and obviously mobile. Now, these 2 businesses have different needs, and in both these businesses, we have a leading position in the marketplace. So for us, social was about really crafting a strategy that fits the needs of both the businesses. So for example, on the TV shopping, you need to really, be a bit more mass. You need to figure out an approach of associating a set of unique products that we merchandise on TV, and also connect the audience with our anchors, because a lot of people on our TV shopping business relate to the anchors who are presenting the products. On the e-commerce side, we are a horizontal retailer, so we play in multiple categories, right from books to appliances to jewelry. So it's about, again, figuring out the right connect there. So we are, I think, very early. We have actively started the social initiative about a year ago now, so it's still early days, relatively speaking, for us. But a couple of things which we've learned is, one is, I think just building on what Kritika said, it's one thing just to create a storefront on Facebook, but actually to manage it completely end to end, or thinking through it holistically. So a couple of things. One is you need to think about it as an always-on engagement, particularly because once you have either a storefront or your own page, you need to make sure that you are able to listen to your consumers on 24/7 basis, and not many companies or brands are geared up for it. So it just becomes a very messy complaint board rather than anything else, rather than a true engagement platform. And there needs to be something in it for your consumers as well who engage with your brand on social media. So what the approach we've taken is we've tried to actually build the basics first. So we've tried to get our infrastructure in order, make sure consumers are happy, we deliver on time, all the basics that's required for any brand before you sort of go into social media in a very public sort of a way and then actually engage.
Another question for you, Kritika. In the social space, are people ready to click and buy as much as they're ready to click and share?
The online behavior is nothing but a reflection of your offline behavior. And to the extent that you walk into a store and you feel that you trust the place that you're going to buy from and you see the value in whatever you're buying, you go ahead and make the purchase. But if you have any kind of questions there and say, does not sound right, or I need a recommendation from a friend before I make that purchase decision and bring out my credit card or take out my cash, it's the same behavior in the online space. And actually, I think social and Facebook goes a long way in helping that conversion from click to share to click to buy that you spoke about. And that's the whole philosophy behind our ads, is the whole social context that comes with it. So when you see an ad, it's one thing for the brand to say, hey, we do this really, really well, but it's another thing for you to see that one of your friends really likes it. And that is just a whole different trust factor associated with that interaction than the brand telling you something. So we have found, and actually I see Farshad right here on the first row from Nielsen. So Nielsen did a study and they found that that social context that you add to advertising causes like a 1.6x increase in brand recall, a 2x increase in message awareness, and a 4x increase in purchase intent. And at the fundamental level, it makes sense, right? If you go to TripAdvisor and you're looking for like a trip to Goa, if I see that my friends like this particular hotel, restaurant, site, then I'm just that much more likely to believe that, trust that, and make that purchase. So we actually think of Facebook and that social context as helping bridge that gap between that sharing and that evaluating to actually making the purchase.
So Ramesh, a lot of the products that we're talking about, the Godrej appliances bit, right? They aren't really low involvement purchases or purchases at a small price point and things of the sort. So in the earlier days, you would have the traditional social. You still have the traditional social, right? So my mother's got a Godrej fridge, and her sister sees it, and the neighbor sees it, and so on and so forth, right? How is this? Is this any different, right? In the social in the social base that you've got or you've acquired over the recent past. Is there any difference in the traditional social and the digital social? And what does this mean from a commerce perspective?
It's an excellent question because, appliance purchase is a high involvement purchase, and it's a social activity. It is not just a purchase process. If you are going to buy an appliance, let's say a refrigerator or a washing machine, it's the whole family which goes and buys a product. Because there is an assurance when father takes a decision or the chief wage earner takes a decision, wife supports him saying, okay, this is a good product, it can be used well. Kids are there to say, yeah, it's a good brand to buy and stuff like those. So how do we tackle that? If you see, there has been a huge shift in the consumer buying behavior of late. Now, as we see more of nuclear families setting in, people moving different cities, you don't have the same community around you. Consumers are no more followers. They don't just ask for people and just say, okay, you bought a Godrej refrigerator, so I am also going to buy a Godrej refrigerator. People are willing to experiment. The cost or the risk in terms of both economical as well as social risk is not too high. People are willing to try new brands. People are trying to do different things. However, the engagement levels or the way they look at recommendation is very different. They're not going to ask their peers, the immediate peers or the people who they live with or who they talk to, because they don't want to do that. They think it is, I'm supposed to know about this better than him, so I will not do that. I will not ask someone else, like I will not come and ask you, hey, which one did you buy? I would rather go online and check out which are the products being sold, which is the one which is more visible, which has got better star rating in terms of likes, which has got better likes, and then which has been reviewed better. So in one sense, if you see all the social, this kind of recommendation, which is advocacy, is already happening. The other end is we haven't really exploited this. Maybe in the last 2 years, we had a lot of websites which talked about, and recently we also saw an ad which happened. So there are a lot of sites which do these reviews, but they have started now commercially exploiting those opportunities which they have. And so in terms of difference, because there is a shift happening in consumers, the way they buy the product, the way they look at getting recommendation, I think there's a right platform on which we'll be able to sell better.
My next question is really for both Ishita and Narasimha. This is a kind of a basic question, so please forgive us for this one, but it's an important one as well. We've seen, so in the last few days, I obviously went down to your websites, took a look at the social presence, did a lot of, just looked at what you all did in the social space, right? So we saw healthy Facebook and Twitter and a Twitter presence, whereas the social landscape is a lot more than these. But for this question, let's stick to the two. How do you? What is the difference, or what are the levels of interaction you have on a Twitter vis-a-vis a Facebook?
I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer this, because we've just started to experiment with Twitter. So while Facebook is something we adopted pretty much from the beginning, we're still trying to figure out our strategy through Twitter. So Facebook we are using for multiple things. We're using for obviously acquiring our members. We are using for engaging with them, interacting with them, talking social trends, conversations, customer service, big one for us. So we have an entire team working on that. Feedback. So what kind of brands would you like to see? What kind of products that you like to see? Deals that you like to see? So this is specific to our Facebook page. I think to some extent we have an understanding of how we can use that piece. But Twitter, not so much. We just started about 3-4 months back. We're essentially using it for, okay, so Facebook we realized we can't have too many posts out there. We can't keep bothering people. Facebook itself has rules to filter you out. Twitter, we can do a lot more. We can do a lot more quick conversations. We can tell you an item is just about getting sold out, grab it, quick, get it. We can do quick one-liner conversations that Facebook doesn't allow us to. We're doing a lot of listening on Twitter as well, which is something that we're not doing so much on Facebook. So we're listening into where is 99 labels being talked about, what kind of conversations that are happening. Can we tune into those conversations and start interacting with a group of people that we were earlier not interacting with? So those are the two ways that we are differentiating ourselves.
Rajan, I don't get to answer that question.
You do.
No, I'm kidding. They can speak.
Yeah, actually, we started both these fairly early, but I think the way we use it is slightly different. I think primarily, as I said, we started sort of making sure that we were ready before we could engage on these two media, so we're relatively a late starter in that sense. But primarily, we also felt that these two work differently for different categories. For example, Twitter, we use a lot for deals, for daily deals, because it's quick. We're able to have one-line conversations, building on what Ishita said with some of our power customers or loyal customers. We inform them very fast, because very often, while you may be having Facebook on your phone, you might not be checking it as often as you do, but a tweet probably is much more easier. So we use that. Facebook, both these, frankly, we've not leveraged yet as a sales platform. We're using it primarily as listening posts to listen to our customers. If there's any complaint, rapidly responding and closing that, particularly on Facebook. Making sure we promote certain new categories or products on both these. But I think for both of these, I think there's a lot of opportunity for us to develop, particularly on Twitter. We're primarily using it for deals, and we just launched our one of India's, again, the largest bookstore online last week. So we just tweeted to our audience. So we engage very often in that manner.
All right. I spent many years in ad sales, and I just can't control myself. I have to ask you this question, right? So we've seen the Facebook, the user base, grow exponentially, right? And today, I've known of a lot of advertisers who believe that the CPCs, the cost per clicks, etc., the rates for the ads essentially are extremely competitive, and intuitively you would kind of agree with the same thing. But are there any newer formats that you are looking at to engage with advertisers to eventually drive commerce? This is not the brand engagement, it's not a brand engagement question. It's more about how will you use this, or are there any formats, etc., which you will use to drive commerce?
I can't really comment on future products or future ad formats, but what I can talk about is, one, our philosophy of how we think about advertising, two, just our commitment to innovation, and just how it plays out for e-commerce players. So in terms of how we think about ads, really the basic unit of conversation is that of a person sharing a story about something that's happening to them, or something that they're interested in. And that's the same conversation that they're having about brands, products, and services. And so that is our philosophy of how we want people to be talking about the different e-commerce sites and the products and brands represented by the e-commerce sites. And we see just a heavy engagement where people want to do that. Where they go, where they eat, what they buy is as much part of who they are offline as much as their friends and the conversation that they're having with friends. So that's the unit that we really try to develop, and what that gives for e-commerce site is, one, an ability to have a two-way conversation. We have our marketers coming to us and telling us that shift in focusing from really a transactional model in e-commerce to more of a relationship model is helping drive increased average sales, is helping drive repeat purchases, and the like. And I think the biggest, in terms of commitment to innovation, I mean, you constantly see what we are doing in terms of ad formats. And the biggest thing that we're really excited about is our recent announcement of our Open Graph in the F8 Developer Conference a few months ago. And what that does is really, until now, the only way a person could interact with something was say that they like, right? That was the only verb that they could express. But now, you can define whatever verb you want. And so we have, like, one of the apparel stores in the US, they have love, want, own. So those are the verbs that they define. And so this is another e-commerce site. So people can go and say, I love this, I want this, I own this. And it just opens up a plethora of how each of us can interact with e-commerce sites and express what they want. So the possibility is endless, and really it comes back to the innovation that every e-commerce site will participate in to make it their own.
I'm going to continue in the same line, and I'm going to ask Ramesh, to comment on a small statement that I'm going to make. Social media for branding vis-a-vis acquisition.
If you ask me from my perspective, any branding that happens, if you do any activity without that in mind, commerce in mind, so I'm quite surprised that the word social commerce is just emerging right now, because if the social marketing has emerged almost 4 to 5 years back, it should have emerged immediately after that, because the moment anyone puts money, he says, where's the money which is coming back to me? So, but good thing is, it's happening. For us, it's purely, we are working on 2 platforms. One, of course, branding, as I just mentioned. There is a platform which we have created, which is to drive the brand strategy. There is a brand strategy in place, and whatever we want to achieve through that brand strategy, there is Gojio, and there are various other websites which are in place to achieve that, or the social sites which we have to achieve that. When it comes to specifically to categories, and in our case, which like appliance, which has penetrations as low as 1%, 1.5%, when you see even for that, if you look at even air conditioners, the penetration is just 2%. So here it is all about how to acquire more customers. So we put a social site, I don't know whether it's the right statement to make, and I'm not sure whether you will like it. The very fact is, it is today, tomorrow it has to get me business. If I don't do that, someone is going to ask me, why are you investing so much of money? So purpose there would be, if it's a site which is dedicated for a business, it is, of course, I'm just talking about business, it's not just purely selling. I'm sure we all are aware that business is much more than selling. It is really keeping the consumer happy, it's engaging the consumer, making him feel good about buying a brand, building a relationship with him. So all that happens as a part of commerce. So there are sites like our Godrej Appliance site is purely on that, and which is growing fast. So you're creating community of people who are looking for certain products. So it's kind of a net which you're putting in, and where you get customers, and then you use and you try to sell to them later on. But the only point I would like to add, I mean, it sounds very devilish because the way I'm talking is look like we just there to sell, and sell. No, it's not that. But as I said, as what we just touched upon also is that, for all the business that you are in, service is a critical part of what we do. And if you have to keep listening to your customer, you have to have an open channel where all of us have moved from just communication, that's one-way communication where you do advertising, to a two-way communication where we're talking about prosumers, consumers, creating your own business, developing your business, guiding your business. So we use this more to listen and create products which will service their needs, and hence we will be able to sell to them what they want to buy. So that's the way we are looking at it. So there is certain channels which help us in engaging with them or acquiring them, and there are certain channels which is purely for driving the brand initiatives which we have in place.
Sure. Ishita, we had this conversation just before we got onto the panel, so I thought it was a very interesting question. How do you look at social? How is it handled better, in-house or outsourced?
Ooh, you'll get me thrown out. So in-house is what we do. And I also think it should be in-house for a while. One, because I keep saying this, we know very little of what we're doing. With all these folks who are trusting us enough to become our fans or following us on Twitter, reading our blogs, what do we do with them? As we learn is how we interact with them. Our entire strategy has been an evolving strategy. It's something that we are closest to in-house. So we'd like to do this in-house. The other reason is that we are a fairly dynamic company. Any online company is. In the morning, we can think of a promotion, and by the evening, it's live on our site. We've thought of a deal, and it's live on our site. It takes us 4 hours. There is nobody outside. There's no outside agency who can hit our timelines the way we want it to. And the third aspect is cost. I haven't come across anybody who can give us a more cost-effective solution. So every which way for somebody like us who's purely online. I mean, there are folks who are online, offline in the businesses. We are purely online. We'd like to keep closest to our customers, fans, what have yous, and we'd like to be engaging with them personally. Okay.
Nasima, you just said that you recently launched a bookstore on Facebook. Can you tell us a little bit about the experience? I know it's very new, but what's early days looking like in that?
Yeah, actually, it's been very, very positive, frankly, because the books is a very large e-commerce category, and it's also underserved in many ways. So we decided to enter because we also had the underlying infrastructure like warehousing and the capability to deliver a great experience. And we also, we picked it as one of the categories we want to enter in fairly late because we wanted all the underlying infra in place that serves our other categories. So we are using social quite actively because books is something that a lot of people want to share about. Reading. You might not want to share everything that you buy for obvious reasons, but books lends itself to social in a very, very meaningful way. And so it's early days for us. We've just started, and so far the consumer feedback has been very positive, and we hope to engage with our fans and some of our new customers very actively on using both Facebook and other media.
Okay, thanks. I'm going to ask you one last question. So I'm going to ask this of Kritika, okay? It's a what-if question. Right, so, okay, what if you exclude social from the scheme of things today? Comment on the impact or the lack of impact, so to say.
Yeah, it's staggering, right, to think of the what if. We were just having a discussion just before this panel session where I spoke about how we at Facebook believe that we are 1% of our way done in terms of the impact that we can make for people around the globe. And, you know, the discussion was, yeah, you know, there was a similar comment a few years ago that the internet is only just 5% explored. And it's staggering to think of, you know, truly that's the case. There's so much more left to do. So no, I have seen the value of social just in fundamental areas of, you know, connecting people, helping people find kidneys, helping find, you know, lost friends, and just fundamental social needs. And then we also see just big things happen all across the globe. So from that perspective, I would just feel this whole void if social wasn't there. And then, of course, there's the marketing aspect and the ability to truly connect to people. So I'll just give one anecdote here. And I think this is really important because, and if you remember nothing else from my conversation, remember this, which is the why of and the power of what social gives you. You know that feeling that you get when you go into your local Kirana store and the Kirana store knows exactly what brand of tea you want and then asks about how your family is doing, how your friends are doing. So with social and with Facebook, you have people with real identities, with real friends, real interest on the web. So never before were e-commerce sites, brands able to establish that personal connection such that when you log in, you have that same sense of, yes, I mean, this is my neighborhood store. And you can do that with millions. So just the scale and pace of what you can do and provide that personal connection on the web truly is what the why is about. And if you internalize the why, then the how, the when, all of that will follow. But that's really the power of social on e-commerce.